We saw when Kanye wanted to talk about Jesus, the pushback he got, right? So
where do you think music is going? Because AI terrifies, I would say, a good portion of the population.
And some people will say, I'm wrong.
How have you bobbed and weaved in Hollywood with people that don't necessarily agree with you without sacrificing who you are? Is the music industry under attack? Is men's masculinity being called into action as a negative or as a positive? And is sobriety becoming a mainstream topic? Guys, we have Luka Miliano here today. He's produced for artists such as Celine Dion, Lotto featuring Meg Thee Stallion, and Charlie on a Friday, as well as Bruno Mars. And he's worked across the board with some amazing producers in the industry. He has an incredible journey that he wants to kind of share with us today around sobriety, recovering from addiction, faith, fitness, and music. So let's get into it.
This is going to be a fun one. Let's go.
What's up, man? Luka, what's up, man?
How you doing? Great to be here.
We're doing great. Doing great. It's glad to have you on the podcast. We've heard great things, and we got to chat with you a little bit before this happened and got to know you, but it's super happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, music. How did you get into music? Just kind of let everybody know who is Luka.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm living in LA right now. My mother showed me a lot of classic rock growing up. So it started with like she would show me like Queen, Jethro Tull, bands like Rush, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. And that to me was so magical and so like something I wanted to emulate. So I would I remember from an early age, like putting on her tapes. They were cassette tapes at the time, some records, and just like lip syncing into like whatever thing I could find. And just like air drum, like setting up pillows and kind of air drumming, and then watching because MTV was big at the time, and they would actually have some of these videos on, but when they were actually about music, so stuff like that. So she really, my mother really got me into music, and then I even went on like a local television station and did I was super young, did like a lip sync of Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. So
that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, I think I saw the video a few years ago. I was cringing. Yeah, I was so nervous, but she always supported my my musical endeavors. So
nice. Did you consider yourself more of a musician or a producer? I know today you told us that you do more producing, but did you start out as a musician and finally kind of transfer over to being a producer?
Absolutely. I'd say definitely a musician first. I didn't understand that how music was produced, or I just figured bands wrote all their songs and just like recorded them themselves, or that there was no songwriters involved, there was no producers. Like I had no idea of how any of this really works. So the first things I did was pick up a guitar, pick up drums. I was in bands in high school, my own bands, in the jazz band, and so definitely a musician first. Yeah.
Nice. How did you get into producing then? How long did it take?
Yeah, I was in high school. So that was a ninth grade. At my high school, we were very fortunate. We had synth labs. It was called Synth Lab. It was an elective class you could take, and they had a few rooms with a synthesizer and a computer and a program called Digital Performer. It's a really old digital audio workstation, and very limited in what you can do. It was kind of meant for class like scoring and classical music, but you could sequence out synthesizer parts and create at the time what was I was making beats, right? Happened. So we would all go, we could use those spaces during school for our elective, and then after school they let us use them as well. So we would go in there and make beats, and like all the rappers in the high school would come in there, and like it'd be a showdown, So that was,
what were some of those showdowns that you're talking about? Because that's pretty cool.
there was, probably some questionable things going on in there with some alcohol, some,
Yeah.
we would graffiti up the walls in there, and it was
Some
just
liquid courage.
freestyle. Yeah, people would take turns playing their beats, and then people would freestyle, and there was definitely like the kids in there in the school that you looked up to, like the older kids who were just like,
Mm-hmm.
thought we're going to be like the biggest rappers of all time, but so yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So off camera, we were talking about a little bit about your career. You
Yeah.
said you've worked with Bruno Mars, Meg Thee Stallion,
Yeah.
and other artists. How did you get into that space? Because I went to film school. I have my bachelor's in filmmaking, so I've been doing this for 12 plus years. But at school, we had a whole program that was for audio. So audio producing. Every other dude wanted to be a rapper, bro. Everybody did, or they wanted to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wanted to produce it. Everybody wanted to be the next Eminem or Tupac or whatever, right? So how did you make it to where you are now? Because if you've worked with people like Bruno Mars, people would say, "Wow, you've had a pretty successful career." So what was that secret, if you can say,
or even a catalyst,
that got you into that world?
Right, absolutely. The secret. That's a great way to think about it. I think for sure, I never gave up. Like that's like, and as you'll hear more of my story, you could easily look at times where it would have been like, oh, you could have given up there, you could have given up there, or pivoted here, or pivoted there. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's you got to have some talent and be real with yourself, and if you're not good, you gotta be able to tell yourself like you're not good at it, but like if you have some talent and you're willing to just never give up, like this is really, that's like the secret, you know what I mean? And it could take a long time, it could take a short time. That's not really like completely in your hands in an industry where the product you're giving everyone it's subjective, right? So people have to like it. It's not just like, so yeah, I'd say never giving up. And also, it does take a certain amount of getting some feedback from others. The way the first real moment for me when I decided this was going to be something I was going to really, really pursue was it was something as simple as a producer showcase, where I went and showed some of my beats at the time to some industry judges, right? And I got really good feedback. And I got some constructive criticism, right? So I knew what to do to try to get better. But I also got that little nudge of confidence to say, this is something you could do. So
what's the creative process for you specifically? Because everybody thinks that they're the best in sliced bread, and then they come down to reality a bit when people give them that constructive feedback. But what does the creative process look like? Because you mentioned earlier that it's what people like. Because what I might like or what you might like as a producer, not everybody's going to like, right? So how do you fill that gap where people are like, yeah, that's a dope beat, or that's a really cool mix that I got to, be a part of or showcase, as you mentioned?
Yeah, right. Well, there's two sides of it, because eventually, if you're working in the industry, you're sometimes just having to please a client, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to deliver for them, and so I can't say I've loved everything that I've created and has been released. I wouldn't say that, but I was happy to satisfy the client. On the other side of that is if you were going into the creative process with no expectations, like I don't go in with much direction, you know what I mean? I don't like to think too far ahead. Oh, I'm going to go into the studio and do this today. I'm going to do that today. I just like to really, really rely on just how something feels, right? Because that initially, like before, when we turn on music, we don't hear, like, it's not lyric, it's a combination of everything that like creates an emotion, right? So sometimes the song opens with just drums or just a keyboard part, right? You have you have to be able to be pulled in right away. And so definitely I'm always like looking for like some type of really unique sound to build off of, or just something that like something, I'm pulling from things that I've heard in the past, and we're all borrowing from each other, and
Mm.
I'm pulling from things that have evoked emotion out of me, whether I'm in
Mm.
my car. Most of that comes from in my car, you know what I mean? Driving.
Mhm.
If I hear something that brings emotion out of me, I try to figure out what it was that did that, and I try to recreate that.
Where do you think music is going? Because AI terrifies, I would say, a good portion of the population. How do you think that AI is going to influence the music industry? There's a lot of AI tools that are either cloning professionals' voices or the
creating
other.
whole songs. I mean, we use it
Yeah.
in business all the time for what I'm doing with AI and automation. Is there's platforms out there now that you could say write a country song about Mountain Dew, and
Right.
the guy sounds like a professional country artist talking about Mountain Dew, and it's
I
the funniest thing ever. But it's very well done and put together. So yeah, it's a great question, David.
So it is, yeah, people are generally, yeah, you get kind of like most people are a little scared of what's to come with this, right? I'm actually, I'm actually not one of those people. I've
Mm.
used some of these tools to my advantage, these AI tools. I've definitely replaced my own voice with a better singer um, in order to pitch a song to an artist, right? Where it's like with me on it, you might not think it's a great song, but if I have one of these AI voices sing it, hey, you might be sold, right? So that's been a good tool, I think. Um, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to be able to adapt, right? We're going to have to be able to adapt and use these things. I don't, and some people will say I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to fully replace um, human creations, right? I think what you're going to see in music is after, when this AI technology is sort of peaking, and it hasn't peaked yet, believe me, it's not even close.
Mm.
But when it's peaking, you're going to see uh, a draw towards wanting to see live music,
Mm.
people singing, like like live music. You're going to have to prove that you can do it the old way,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And I think there'll be value. And I hope, and I think there will be, but I hope there will be value in that, placed in that over just kind of like the microwaved in quantity amount of music you can do with AI. It's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I think that the human connection is something that we probably won't ever lose because
Yeah,
people connect with people, right? Why do you
absolutely.
think Isaac and I easily, I could have created an entire YouTube channel based off of AI. I could have had
Absolutely.
two, AI generated brothers speaking inspiration to the heart of men, inspiring people to go out there, do hard things. But people will follow us and will follow you. People follow Taylor Swift, billions of people. And it's not because she sounds the best. I can name
Right.
20 singers that I think have a better voice than Taylor Swift. It's because
100%.
of the experience, of the connection. They feel
She does
that
really
they
good at
know,
that.
they feel like she knows them, right? So
Right.
I think that's incredibly important in the future of music because AI might have some good music you can listen to, but you're losing that human connection.
What
Yeah.
inspires you for the future of music? Like, what do you feel like is the future, in your opinion?
The future of music, I think, is going back to like it is like bands. That's what I'm hoping.
Me
That's
That'd
what
be
too.
I'm.
cool.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, I'm hoping bands, and it's not necessarily bands for sure, but just how you remember it was like, um, you know, Janis Joplin, right? Like
Mm.
like Jimi Hendrix. These people were just, um, you didn't have to be super attractive. It was clear that it was all about the music, right? It was
Mm.
all about your talent, and it was all about them connecting with the audience. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen, and I'm seeing a little bit of it. I'm seeing little signs of it here and there. I think people are um sick of consuming some of the stuff we've been consuming for the last, 10 years or so. So that's my
Yeah,
hope.
I just watched a documentary recently on, remember all the artists that came together in 1985 for We Are the World?
I saw that.
Did you watch the
Unbelievable.
documentary?
Yeah, unbelievable.
I haven't seen it.
It gave me goosebumps. I watched it with one of my friends a couple days ago, and just seeing the creative process and
Right.
getting kind of a bird's eye view into the Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, all these artists that came together for free to help raise money for kids in Africa that were starving. And one of the guys asked, "Am I getting paid for this?" You remember that? And they're like, "No, this is for free. You're volunteering, right?" But they all had such a unique voice that they were contributing to this masterpiece that won an Emmy for it as well, or a Grammy, I believe.
Yeah, Grammy.
And I love seeing that because we're getting away from that. Everything is so polarizing now with artists. Everybody's competing against each other. And a lot of the music that's put out today is just propaganda nonsense. It doesn't actually build you up at all. It doesn't build your spirit up. It doesn't allow you to think positively. It's very negative, or it's just sex, drugs, and alcohol and rock and roll, which is why I wanted to ask you this next question surrounding sobriety and addiction, because it seems like a lot of music is pushing a narrative that it's okay to do those things and live in an addictive mindset. So what's your story with addiction? And you mentioned to us that you had quite a story with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew. I got sober 12 years ago, a little over 12 years ago, right? So
Let's go.
Congratulations.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it wasn't and it took I had to try a bunch of times, right? I had to try a good 4 times before, God willing, this time, right? Which is hopefully the last time. Yeah, I like to think when I was growing up that the music wasn't influencing me. I listened to a lot of hip hop, a lot of Wu-Tang Clan, a lot of lot of Nas, like the old school hip hop. And I like, at the time, if you were to say, it's like old folks would yell at you like, "Oh, this is rotten. This is the devil's music," or I don't like what the explicit lyrics and the stuff they're talking about. And at the time, I'd say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," like, and you couldn't tell me at the time that this stuff was influencing me, right? But as I look back, I'm listening to whatever XYZ, and we're drinking 40s, smoking blunts, and the music is talking about that, right? It's talking explicitly about that most of the time. Is it the gateway music? Is weed the gateway drug? I don't know. I think from my experience, I could say, yeah. I think these things absolutely played a role in my drug addiction moving forward. So yeah, because these are the first time listening to this music was the first time I tried alcohol, was the first time I tried marijuana, right? Which led to other things, and then as I progressed in my addiction, whether it was heroin or things like that, it got really serious. That put me in a perpetual negative state of mind, where then the music I'm choosing to listen to is feeding that as well. So
Reinforcing,
reinforcing that. So I'm like, there was a time when I was really into like dark hip hop, right? Like really dark stuff. That would get into topics of like just like murder rap, they would call it, and just like Islam and like really dark stuff, right? I don't even know what they're talking about. Like it just kind of like went hand in hand with my drug use, right? Kind of fed the state of mind that I was in. So absolutely, these things are all tied together for sure.
What is the lowest moment in that process? Where was that moment that you said you needed to change? Because again, I've had a lot of addiction with people in my family, some of my closest friends have almost died. So that prevented me from getting into it because I saw their life being destroyed. So I always like to ask people, what is that lowest moment where you finally said, I have to change, or maybe I'm going to die? Did you have a moment like that?
100%. I've had many moments, right? I've had the physical moments where I've overdosed, I've had the the moments where I was just really broke and I wanted the support of my parents again. So I was going to use that sort of, cry to them. And so that I could get their support again, maybe financially or the place to live. But I wasn't planning on really giving up drugs and alcohol. And so there's all types of moments you go through when you're trying to get sober. And for me, the last moment, though it wasn't maybe the rock bottom that I could describe of, just like, sleeping on people's floors or, walking the streets late at night to buy certain drugs with like an old man and how like weird that would look, like if like these moments, those all happen. But for me, the last moment it was a spiritual moment, right? I came to a place where I could no longer, I felt like I couldn't go on with or without drugs and alcohol. And so it wasn't the rock bottom that would make for a good movie in that, like in that particular time, but it was kind of this spiritual moment of having a small window of willingness for 10 minutes to try to get sober and reaching out to somebody and them responding. And it's just very much a timing thing. There's this little bit of willingness, which, if an hour or two passed and the drug man had shown up and delivered me something, I wouldn't have, that I would have kept going. Right. But it's sort of this like spiritual moment and having the willingness to ask for help and then taking the help. That, that for me was the final straw.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said you tried four or five different times.
Yeah.
What was different the final time? Because I know people that have struggled with drugs for 20 to 30 years and they've done every rehab, dude. They've done tried to get deliverance. I mean, you name it. They've gone to a lodge and just sweated it out for days.
Ashwagandha. They've tried iboga in treatment centers in Mexico.
They've done everything. What was different the last time? Because we want to give hope to people, right? Because a lot of you watching might still be going through this. What was different the final time?
Everybody was sick of me at that point, right? All my loved ones, all my friends.
You wore out the goodwill of the people with you?
What's that?
You wore out all the goodwill of all your friends?
Absolutely. I mean, they would be there, to answer the phone, but they were not trying to feed into my bullshit anymore,
Yeah.
So, so really that was the moment where you decide, like, I got to do this for myself. There's no like amount of people asking me to get better that's ever going to work. My mother crying over and over, my girlfriend begging me, talking about all the hurt I caused. And none of that was going to wake me up, right? Because when you're in that cycle of addiction, you'll walk over anybody. Like, the people you love the most, you're willing to hurt them. It's no problem, as crazy as that sounds. So it was none of that. It was just a moment of nobody left, right? Except myself,
You had your David Goggins moment.
Exactly.
Just having to do it.
There's nobody left, There's nobody left. No one's gonna bail me out of my bullshit anymore. No one's gonna co-sign my crap. So
sounds like there's no secret formula, right?
What's that?
There's really no secret formula. It's just a choice. You have to make a decision that you're done. And you can ask for help and, seek recovery and make the necessary steps. But it sounds like there's no secret, which is actually hopium to the audience because you just have to make that decision to get up and start moving.
Right. Everybody's looking for the secret, right? The secret. The longer I've been sober, it's almost like the less I know. I feel like I feel like I know less about how to get sober. So, yeah, you have that moment, man, and you either you either take advantage of it or you don't.
How does bodybuilding kind of fit into this equation? Because you mentioned that you were a bodybuilder. We can talk about steroids and kind of overall health, but where were you along that journey of recovery or addiction where you were bodybuilding? Was it after or before?
It was about 4 or 5 years into being sober. It actually started. I had a recording studio in West LA, and I was going through a breakup with a girl that I was living with, and so I had nowhere to, we've separated, so I had nowhere to stay. So I was staying at my recording studio. I had a nice pull-out couch, but the only thing we didn't have in there was a shower. And so about 2 blocks down, there was a LA Fitness, and so I joined the gym as a place to shower. And I said, well, maybe I'll start working out too. I'm going to pay for this membership. Started very slowly with just doing some cardio, and then taking advantage of like a week of the personal training they would offer me for free.
Yeah.
And looking back, like those guys, they're not, God bless them, they're not the greatest like personal trainers.
Oh, yeah. Dude, half of them are fat and you can't,
like,
I don't want to look like you.
Exactly. Yeah. So actually, going through a breakup put me in the gym, and then you just start realizing how good it feels, right? The discipline and of like showing up every day or 6 days a week, 5 days a week. How that routine just kind of like makes everything better. You're sleeping better, your posture's better. You're having more energy, right? So I just got hooked through that, and then I wanted to how it turned into actually bodybuilding competitively was I had an uncle who was a bodybuilder, right? Never made it pro or anything, very on an amateur level, but someone when you're young you look up to as sort of this like superhero figure, and he passed away from a drug overdose around that time. And so I sort of wanted to do bodybuilding as a way to honor him, because we were very close. And so that's when I got into it. So between with a breakup and a death, kind of put me into bodybuilding.
What are your thoughts on steroids? Did you ever use steroids? Did you get to that point?
Yeah, I absolutely did. Yeah, I could tell you all about them. I could tell you all about. I've done them all. Yeah. Well, so if you're gonna compete in bodybuilding, you could go to the natural route. There are natural federations. It's not as exciting,
not as big time.
Not as big time. You want to go into the IFBB or these other, you're going to be going on stage with, everybody's going to be using something, right? Mostly,
even the women, bro. Even
the women, they're going to be using a lot of something, a lot of many things. So it's a decision you make. For me, I was over 35 at the time. I was about 35. I hired a coach. He told me, listen, I support testosterone use in a therapeutic way when you're 40 years old anyway. So it's a decision you're going to make. If you want to compete, I can tell you what to use and how to use it safely. And after that, depending on how long you do it, you're probably going to, need to remain on some sort of testosterone, because your natural levels won't bounce back. And so that was a choice I decided to go with. And I can say there's a lot of misinformation out there of what's going to happen to you when you use steroids.
Let's get into this.
Let's get it. Let's talk about it.
I need to be educated, my friend, because I have some friends that have used steroids, but
what's that?
I've
Yeah,
had some friends that have used it, but I've never
yeah.
used it myself. But they give me mixed reviews, so I need to hear the truth, my friend.
Well, first of all, it's going to be different for everybody. I think for whatever reason, I didn't have a lot of side effects. In the way that people tell you, you're going to get acne or you're going to grow man boobs. None of that happened for me, and I know it can happen for some people. But if you're working with a professional, they'll be able to combat those side effects easily. It doesn't make you. They talk about roid rage.
Yeah.
I think the people who really get roid rage were already assholes to begin with. Like I don't think you know what I mean. It's like they already and maybe that just amplifies it a little bit.
It reveals who you really are.
But
I heard Trent gives you roid rage. Is that true?
That'd be the one. I've done it. Yeah, that'd be the one for sure. That had the most side effects, like with your mood. But again, if you're not a rageful person,
Yeah,
you can handle it. It's nothing crazy. That's just for me.
So you kind of have it's dependent on the person. You're not really recommending it or
No.
telling people a warning about it. You're just kind of saying, hey, it's kind of dependent on the person. Not some people benefit from it. Some people will have negative effects. You kind of have to experience that for yourself.
So consult with your professional physician.
Oh, for sure. No, I definitely don't recommend it. I definitely am not out here recommending any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say, you do actually, if you do it with a professional, with the help of a professional, you actually learn how to be more conscious of your health, right? Because you're taking these things, you need to then supplement with a lot of vitamins, a lot of other supplements that take care of your health, your heart health, your liver health, your kidney health, right? All that stuff, mental, like different. So you're checking your blood more often. You're getting blood work in between shows or cycles, right? To make sure everything's okay. If things aren't good, your coach shouldn't tell you to push on.
Yeah.
They should address the problem.
What's the most common misconception with steroids?
I've heard this before. I don't know if this is the most common, that it makes your dick small. Is this? I've
heard that testosterone though makes it to where you can't have children until you get off of it. Is that true?
You can stay on and take some like HCG or
It stimulates the balls.
Again.
Stimulates
the But it does. It can shut you down in that way, and then you'll have to get off and work on your fertility with some other medicines again. So yeah.
What's your craziest bodybuilding experience or moment that you've had?
Craziest bodybuilding experience?
Like you ever have a barbell, almost cut your neck off?
Did ever what?
Have you ever had like a barbell almost chop your head off or something?
No, I think just some of the training sessions and some of the weight I ended up moving, and definitely with using the PEDs, you're not feeling the pain. You're recovering really good. That's mainly what it's doing, is boosting your recovery. So like squatting 5 plates 10 times, and then just trying anything close to that now, without the assistance of performance enhancing drugs is I would never, how was that even enjoyable? And that's not even, people do way more than that, but that was good for my height and weight for sure.
I mean, 495, bro, squatting 10 times is nothing to frown at. What was the most you...
That's on my Instagram. We can link that maybe at some point.
What is the most you ever lifted, like benching, squatting, deadlifting? What were your maxes at one point?
Yeah, I think well, for bodybuilding, you're not really looking for a 1 rep max.
Yeah, it's more
you're
endurance.
looking for at least 6 reps.
Okay.
6 to people say 8 to 15, 6 to 20,
Yeah.
whatever. Even more, whatever. So, I mean, I would I was repping 495 on squat. I don't know what my 1 rep max could have been. I have no idea, right? Just to go one time, no idea. But benching 315, a good 10 times, whatever. Nice. Solid reps, stuff like that. Yeah.
Who do you look up to in bodybuilding? Who was your hero?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that's how we all started with Arnold. I feel like Conan the Barbarian movies were just
Dude,
massive fan of those. Lou Ferrigno, for that was the kind of the golden era. But then you kind of you look at those guys, and then you look at guys now, and in the last, even since the 90s, kind of blow those guys out of the water, unfortunately.
Like Ronnie Coleman. I mean, he's still a little older.
Yeah.
But those guys just gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a particular bodybuilder that I think maybe Phil Heath. Phil Heath,
bro.
Yeah.
He was a monster.
Gosh.
Just bubbles everywhere, 3D, fully 3D. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's transition here into I want to talk about masculinity.
Yeah.
Men, strong mindset, and what is your thoughts on masculinity? It seems like, specifically what I've heard from friends of mine that are in Hollywood, that it seems to be becoming very feminized. Specifically, the modern man. They talk about the modern man needs to be more feminine and more accepting and kind of push down versus, the traditionally strong man would be the protector, the provider. He would go out and fight wars and, bring back the gold, so to speak, from different, ways that he went. But I'm just curious on your perspective on that, because it is a very polarizing topic, especially toxic masculinity.
Right. I think the you have the left and right now that are just so much further left and right than they ever were.
Oh yeah.
That I remember growing up. And so there's this thing where it's a man can't be a traditional man. If they are, they're like an asshole. There's some type of big problem with that. You know what I mean? Whereas no, you can probably be a masculine man and still be a great guy, right? It's kind of this there's a whole lot of people not wanting to meet in the middle or agree on anything. That you are just one thing or the other, right? And so
you have to pick a camp.
Yeah, exactly. And so definitely, and then living in Hollywood and being in the music industry, you definitely I don't know about right now, but for a time period, we don't have any masculine well, right now we do in country, right? So, but pop stars to look up to anymore. We had we had guys like Pitbull, right? Remember a little while back, Pitbull,
Mr.
And,
Worldwide.
it was goofy, but he killed it, and it was masculine, right? It was it's now we got
Sam Smith and
Lil Nas X.
Yeah. Oh man, it's where do we, women are running rap right now, which is fine. I mean, that's their moment. They're having their moment. Yeah, there's sort of this definitely this anti-masculine energy flowing through everything right now.
A lot of people think that I talked to a guy, he works in marketing in New York and also in California, and he works with hedge funds and a lot of music labels. He said, the future is female. What are your thoughts on that?
The future is female. Right. That's what they want. That is for sure what they want.
If you're a female and you fit into any one of the victim categories, then you're automatically going to get funded for your business. It doesn't matter if your business has a good business plan, good economic models. It doesn't really matter. If you fit into these victim groups or these minority groups, then you are much more likely to get funding. And if you're a woman, then hats off, you're going to get funding.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And you have to, not only that, is once you fit into these groups, they want you to really push
Hmm.
that identity. Like, it's like you can't just be a gay artist. You gotta like really push the fact that you're a gay artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Push
Like
your sexuality down people's throats, no pun intended.
there was definitely tons of gay artists back in the day that Elton John and Freddie Mercury. It was clear this is a gay person, but the music, the whole message wasn't about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Hmm.
wasn't the whole agenda. Like you could clearly see it, and you took it for what it was. The music was so good, you
Correct.
you kind of didn't care, you know, and you're just like, and so now it's like they really want you to go all in on that identity, where it's
And
like,
that's even the thing, man, with the film industry, bro. That's why
yeah,
Disney is getting absolutely destroyed, because it is one thing. I have no problem with gay characters in movies.
right,
I have no problem. But the problem is when they have to make sure that they have been, their whole family betrayed them their whole life, that their father kicked them out of the house because they were gay, and they have to go all this whole backstory of being a victim, right?
right,
I'm like, if there's a story or two about that, okay, I'm not going to lose my mind, right? But when every single thing has to point out their victimhood, right?
Well,
And
for
it
me, it's
can't,
with kids.
yeah, and
When
it
they
can't just,
started
it
going
can't,
after kids, that's when I draw the
yeah,
line.
and it can't just be about the story, right? I want to see how they overcame different things, but it doesn't always have to be about your sexuality, right? It's not, if you're a straight person, they always have it just be about the story, right? Because it's going to get boring if we're constantly talking about, oh, this straight person was in Hollywood and they overcame all this stuff because they were straight, right? It's just
right,
about have a good story and allow, if characters like that are in it, that's fine. But Disney is getting destroyed because every single thing they put out has to be agenda driven. And that's why Wolverine and Deadpool, the new Twisters movie, is making like $1 billion, because people are like, wow, I finally can see a story again. Since the last 15 years, it's hard to watch something that is Oscar nominated without it having a crazy agenda driven to
I
it.
feel like that's the same though in music, right? As a strong masculine man,
yeah,
how have you bobbed and weaved in Hollywood with people that don't necessarily agree with you
mm.
without sacrificing who you are? Like you're being inclusive to who they are, but you're not sacrificing your moral compass on the altar of their agenda.
There's been moments where things, you're doing sessions with artists or songwriters or just creative people in general, where these topics can come up, the topic of the day, the political topic of the day, the news,
Yeah.
whatever's going on.
I wish I was
And
a fly in that room, man. When
yeah,
that
and
happened,
so I think you'd be surprised. More often than not, I'd say people are actually what the music industry shows us, and what kind of the people on my level who are just like creative and just trying to make a living. We actually agree on more than we disagree inside the
Mm.
rooms. Um, and so a lot of the times we're actually kind of, we'll have some disagreements, but we kind of can acknowledge this kind of ridiculous uh, stuff going on around us.
Mm.
And so I think actually there's more uh, agreeing than there is disagreeing about all these things, about the agendas that you see, the way they use music to, I mean, influence. I mean, you see how they use it at Kamala Harris's event there, where they have,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Little John showed up
little,
last night. Did you see that?
yeah, yeah, and to be honest, on the other side of that, you had Kid Rock, which kind of a little
That
cringy
Trumps,
too.
yeah.
A little cringy too, to be honest. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm wondering who else they could have got. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It makes sense. I'd say, yeah, when these topics do come up in the rooms, in the creative spaces, kind of like people agree to disagree. What's
That's a healthy place, man. Because
yeah, I think so.
I can't stand it when if we don't agree with your opinion, we then have to hate you as an individual.
Right.
There's
Or
a
silence
I can
you or
I can
cancel
love
you.
you. I can love you. Disagree with with your philosophy and your view of the world, but it doesn't mean I have to reject you as an individual. And that's the problem in my world, because I'm in the film industry a lot. Is hey, I don't have to agree with you. This isn't a cult. Stop having a cultish like mentality that I have to agree with everything you say or else I'm no longer part of your circle, right?
Would you agree with the sentiment, Luka, that it seems like, especially in the music industry, there's a lot of personas that happen where people, once the cameras are on, they kind of shift into that persona that will feed into an agenda. And then when the cameras are off, they go right back to their actual beliefs because their actual beliefs won't sell as well as their personas would.
100%. I can't name names, but
Yeah,
I
of
will
course,
tell
of
you.
course.
I will tell you firsthand. You'll see people stand for one thing, and then in person, they'll totally switch up their whole tone.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And it's unfortunate. It really is.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
This is a public example,
Mhm.
but Cardi B, for example,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the music that she posts is very agenda driven, whether you
100%.
like it or not. And then when the camera's off, she's more of a conservative. She doesn't
She's
want
an
her
amazing
own
mother.
child watch. She's like, I never want my child to watch any of my music videos or listen to my songs.
Yeah, she's a good mother.
And she's apparently a good mother. And so it goes to show you that there is a lot of agendas driven. It's not just Hollywood. I think with the way that music's going, there's a lot of music that's actually becoming more independent now where record labels are trying to figure out ways to stay afloat with the way that technology is going. Artists are becoming more independent. They're starting to sell their own records. Tom McDonald's a great example of that. There seems to be a lot of stuff going, but the music industry, I feel like, has such a stranglehold on the artist to where they can only say so much with their voice without being canceled. So they have to finagle and create personas to make sure that they can make a living.
Yeah, I mean, we saw when Kanye wanted to talk about Jesus, the pushback he got, right? So it's
Oh my gosh, man.
and those turned out to be popular songs, and that's how people want to talk about God. They want to talk about Jesus, but with like Cardi B, which what you're saying is absolutely true, and you just even look at politicians. I was thinking the other day when you had Kamala Harris up there saying we're going to give people, $25,000. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you this. They say all that stuff. They don't even raise their own kids that way, right? They don't. They don't go home and say like, oh, we're just, it's just a double standard, right? This is like the way they operate at home and the way that they portray themselves to the world it's
traditional values don't sell, man. They don't sell on a mass scale right now because it's not sexy enough. Specifically, you're talking about the $25,000. That is to new homeowners. She wants to give them a $25,000 stipend. I'm like, well, the money just doesn't come from. It doesn't just come out of thin air. Well, it kind of does because we can print as much as we want.
Then the inflation happens.
Then the inflation goes up and the cost of houses go up with that $25,000. So you're not actually getting $25,000. It's the same with healthcare. It's the same with education, with student loan debt. It's all a circular inflational nightmare. And you're right. It's they don't even raise their own children that way, but they want to appeal to a certain group or audience that wants handouts, and that's socialism in and of itself. And it's actually absolutely a nightmare.
I mean, bro, you get me on the Kamala train, on the Kamala topic, bro. She is the biggest socialist. And Tim Walz, bro, he said we've done tons of reactions of Tim Walz and Kamala. Tim Walz has actually said that one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Right.
And in Minnesota during the COVID shutdown in 2020. He said he actually put in place a program that you could snitch on your neighbors if they didn't stay at home. Yep. And you're talking about
He lied about his military service when the BLM was tearing down Minnesota and burning it to the ground. His wife opened the window so she could smell the burning rubber, and it made her excited.
Yeah,
that's insane.
And
Yeah.
even Kamala at 20 in that time had an interview, and she said that she wanted, they shouldn't stop rioting.
No, it's a movement.
Just keep burning
It's
down
a
black
movement.
businesses
It's
that
a
they're
movement.
all for.
And the thing is, they were burning out. The black community was burning. It's not even the black community. Most of the BLM riots were led by white people, and they were burning down black businesses. I'm like, you're burning down your own people's business. That's crazy to me.
100%. Yeah, wild times. Then, more coming, I think, unfortunately.
Dude, I'm praying for this country, man, and you've expressed to us that recently you found God, bro, which is awesome. Because me and Isaac are big unapologetic Christians, bro. I've been pretty much my entire life, dude. I've seen stuff that I can't go back. I've talked with a lot of different atheists, and I always do it out of love. My goal is not to destroy, their world or whatever. But I'm like, dude, I've seen miracles. There was one time I literally almost broke my ankle, couldn't walk, and God told me to get up and start worshiping Him, and then I got up and I could run. Like, I've seen some things that I just can't go back. But dude, I love to hear that you found God, because He's the center. He's the anchor for me, dude. Like, I've been in so much depression. I've been down in so many different times of my life, but He's what anchors me. I'm still married today because me and my wife, even though we've gone through so much crap, we always return to that. So, but I love to hear, man, that you found God for sure.
Oh, it's been incredible. Do we talk about that?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
Yeah, I got baptized about a month ago. Let's go.
Let's go, man. That's awesome.
It's been so exciting, man. I grew up a little bit, culturally Catholic, right?
Yeah.
Italian family, very like old school stained glass churches and stuff like that, sort of cathedral, which was cool. I didn't know my mother would me and my mother. I grew up with a single mother, by the way. We would pray at night, stuff like that. But I didn't go to like Sunday school or anything, so it was more on a cultural level, right? Like the traditions and the holidays and stuff. But all the stuff I went through, coming out to almost being 40 years old, and having the intellectual experience that brought me to God matched the spiritual experience at this age, when I'm the most clear, minded, sober person I've ever been. It's just made so much sense. And I feel like I'd been missing out really on this for a long time, but I feel like coming to it now makes it so much more. I mean, at 40, I know some people grew up with it their whole lives, the church and stuff like that. I can't say for sure, but my thought is, coming to it now at this age, after going through so much, I feel like maybe my experience is stronger. I don't.
You appreciate it
in a way. In some ways, like it's like an explosion for me of like truth, and it's been incredible. I can't.
Wow.
It's really, it's about, especially from the perspective of someone that grew up with it. On the opposite side of what you're saying, a lot of Christians can become inoculated with just enough of God to be thoroughly immune to Him, right? Where you become saturated with the idea of God, and you think that you know Him, so you don't pursue Him anymore. So it's very easy to stay in that place of complacency, where you don't have to read your Bible, you don't have to meditate on His Word, you don't have to go to church, you don't have to build community, because I already know it. And so there's a sense of progressivism even that comes into Christianity that's kind of creeped into the church. And so from your perspective, you knew what it was like to have nothing and really go through addiction. And then knowing that He came in and saved you, and He redeemed you, and He baptized you in His love, there is a sense of honor that you've given to that, because you know what it's like not to have Him, not have Him. And now that you do have Him, there's a real sense of belonging that comes when you know that He's real, because He saved you and He set you free. And that is what I think is so powerful about your story.
Yeah. Amen. It's been incredible stuff. The last,
amazing.
It's been about a 2-year journey getting into faith, just having the interest about 2 years ago, looking into it. I needed to be convinced in the brain, because I feel like that's how a lot of men are. It's like, I kind of need to like, like I could always go to church and like feel something, or feel like,
Mm,
as they say, the Holy Spirit, and you hear the
mm,
worship music, or you hear the message, you're like, man,
mm,
that's hitting something for me. But I kind of
mm,
needed that intellectual breakthrough, right? And
mm.
now
Apologetics, man.
it's just all come to exactly. Oh yeah, watching a
I
lot of
love
that.
apologetics, man, because I'm the same way. God has given me almost the ability to argue the other point.
Right.
He's given me the ability to think, how do atheists view Christianity?
100%.
And I've gone down that road of, I need to be able to defend what I believe. I've had debates with atheists, friendly debates, and I'm like, if I can't even defend what I can believe, how can I have any influence, right? How can you have any influence if you don't know what you believe? And I think a lot of Christians, it's been passed down, and that's kind of what you're talking about, right? They have been Christians their entire life, so therefore they don't value or even know what they believe. They've just been told to believe something, and it's almost becomes cultish instead of truly experiencing it and know for yourself.
Right.
So I've gone, because of all the stuff personally I've gone through, emotional, just not being able to get out of bed for months at a time, just struggling to live, that whenever I come back to him, I'm infused with the life. But also, dude, I've even done research, like on the Newton laws, right? Matter can never be created nor destroyed. So I love debating with atheists, because I say, if you're going to say God doesn't exist, use science to defend that, because most atheists depend on science. But now as a Christian, I can actually use science to defend why it is more logical that God actually created the world. So, but I love hearing your story, man. I love that.
Yeah.
There's life that comes into you, right? There's certain life, because now you have purpose.
Yep.
And so many people live life without purpose. And
yeah, I mean, specifically with where we're at today in Christianity, there's a copycat or copywritten Christianity that's kind of flowing through America today, specifically surrounding individualism. American Christianity has become so individualistic, where it's all about me, myself, and I, and my problems, and what can I do to make myself feel better. And Jesus never came as an individualistic person. He never came to overthrow Rome. He came to serve and to wash his disciples' feet. He did it for the collective. He didn't do it for the individual. And that's what a lot of megachurch pastors, unfortunately, are preaching right now. It's all about you and like self-help and making yourself better and becoming a better person. But if you become like Jesus, then naturally there is a outer working that happens through sanctification, but it's not through your own individual effort. And the 10 tenets of Satanism, if you read the Satanic Bible, I know a friend of mine that did, it's all about individualism. What can I do to please myself and make myself better? It's not about worshiping somebody else that's already better than me and coming under that headship and that lordship of Jesus Christ. And if we keep going down that path as a nation, people are going to continue leaving church. They're not going to want to be involved in communities because they don't sense there's not an authenticity to it. Like you mentioned, very cerebral, right? It's not. You have to know it here, but you also have to know it here. And if you know it here, but you don't know it here, your heart can deceive you because it's wicked above all things. So you have to have both and pair them together. And I think that's what where the work comes in, because it will strengthen you and it will allow you to be the best version of yourself because you're learning it from the source. And I think that's where most Christians fit. It's a stopgap, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Luka, man, it's
been a
been
pleasure,
awesome
brother.
to get to know you, man. We've had a few calls, but let's build this relationship. We need to have you on again sometime.
Yeah, this was awesome.
I love hearing your story. Love hearing how you've been transformed over your life, and I love hearing your perspective. So, real quick, how can people get in contact with you? Because we want this to be an opportunity for people to follow you. What are some things you're working on in music right now that maybe, I don't know.
Give a little teaser for us without,
a little tease of what you're working on.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I have 2 pages, 9 a.m. official, the number 9 a.m. official. That's kind of like my music page. And then also my personal page is Luka Miliano, LukaMilliano. You can find me there. I kind of share everything to both, but one is a little more personal. As far as what I'm working on, let's see. let's see. I just did some music for some commercials for some phone companies. You'll see them as a company in Canada called TELUS. That was a really nice payday, which we're always happy about that. And then
on that money.
Yeah, and then on the creative side, let's see. I just did a song with Nelly. It's a country tune, kind of like a country hoedown dance banger.
He's making a comeback, huh?
Yeah, he's gonna do it. We got a nice campaign rolled out, so look for that in the next 2 weeks to a month to come out. And yeah, that's about it right now. Just
all right,
just
man. The last question I'm gonna ask you: best rapper of all time and best rapper today. Go.
Ooh, best rapper of all time.
This might get you canceled, but go for it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go for myself. Best rapper of all time for myself is Nas. That's just for me. And at this point, he's had some longevity, so I think you can give him that too. Best rapper right now is Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick, yeah,
he's an incredible lyricist.
His flow is amazing.
He attacked Drake, and I thought it was hilarious, just personally. But
that whole beef was something else.
35, 35.
All right, Luka, man. Well, we appreciate you, brother. We'll stay in contact, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Take care, guys.